The rusty swing set, a mournful conductor, orchestrated the soundtrack to their escape. In the deserted playground, 10-year-old Lily's tear-streaked face reflected the desperation of their flight as she clung to 8-year-old Maisie's hand. 15-year-old Noah, a silent sentinel, his jaw clenched tight, shouldered a backpack containing their meager hopes. Leading them all, 16-year-old Chloe, the self-appointed captain, nervously checked her phone, confirming their brief window of opportunity. They were free. Out of the suffocating confines of Mrs. Gable's foster home, a place where mealtimes were calculated rations and affection was a foreign concept. They were orphans, adrift in the world, but bound together by circumstance and a shared, unspoken yearning for something more. That first night, huddled in the claustrophobic darkness of an abandoned van, the immensity of their situation crashed down upon them. Fear, a cold, clammy hand, gripped their hearts. "What do we do now?" Maisie whispered, her voice trembling with uncertainty. Chloe, drawing on a wellspring of strength she hadn't known she possessed, straightened her shoulders. "We do what we always talked about. We go on our adventure." Noah scoffed, a cynical edge to his voice. "Adventure? We don't even have enough money for a week's worth of food." "We'll figure it out," Chloe insisted, her eyes flashing defiance. "Remember? We each get to choose a place we've always wanted to go, and we go together." A hesitant silence fell, thick with the weight of their reality. It was a childish dream, born from late-night whispered conversations and the shared desire for a better life. But looking at their exhausted faces, Chloe knew they needed something tangible to cling to, a beacon to guide them through the darkness. "Maisie, you go first," she said gently, her voice laced with empathy. Maisie, still clutching Lily's hand, looked up, her eyes wide and innocent. "I want to go home." A collective sigh rippled through the van, a wave of unspoken understanding and trepidation. Their homes were fractured, broken pieces of memories, best left undisturbed. "Maisie," Noah began, his voice laced with caution, "honey, your parents." He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence, unable to bear the thought of shattering her fragile hope. Maisie's lower lip trembled. I just want to see them. Maybe they miss me." Chloe exchanged a look with Noah, then with Lily, a silent conversation passing between them. The risk was enormous. What if they were discovered and dragged back into the unforgiving system? But gazing into Maisie's hopeful face, Chloe found she couldn't say no. "Okay, Maisie," Chloe said, her voice thick with emotion. "We'll go home. To your real parents." And so began their unlikely odyssey. Maisie's home was 3 states away, a small, forgotten town called Willow Creek. They hitchhiked, trading small services for sustenance, and slept in parks and abandoned buildings, clinging to each other for warmth and comfort. Noah, surprisingly resourceful, managed to earn a few dollars working odd jobs, proving himself to be more than just a cynical bystander. Chloe honed her negotiation skills, bartering their way through difficult situations, her youthful face belying a steely resolve. Lily, the quiet observer, became their moral compass, reminding them of their shared purpose whenever despair threatened to consume them. Willow Creek was exactly as Maisie described, sleepy and idyllic, with houses adorned with overflowing flower boxes and children playing hopscotch on the sidewalks. Finding Maisie's old house was surprisingly easy. It was small, painted a cheerful yellow, but the vibrant curtains were now faded, and the garden was overgrown with weeds, signs of neglect clinging to its once vibrant facade. Chloe knocked, her heart hammering against her ribs, the sound echoing the frantic rhythm of their journey. An older woman, her face etched with the weariness of time, answered the door. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice gentle but guarded. "We're looking for Maisie's parents," Chloe stammered, her voice barely a whisper, choked with hope and apprehension. The woman's face crumpled, a wave of sadness washing over her features. Maisie. Oh, you must be here about the adoption. They moved away a few years ago, after the accident. Maisie gasped, her face crumpling, the flicker of hope extinguished in an instant. Accident? What accident? The woman hesitated, then, seeing the raw pain etched on Maisie's face, she relented, inviting them inside. She was Maisie's former neighbor, Mrs. Peterson. Over mugs of lukewarm tea, she unfolded the tragic story. Maisie's parents had been involved in a devastating car crash. Her mother had died instantly, and her father, consumed by grief and overwhelmed by the responsibility of caring for his daughter alone, had reluctantly placed her up for adoption. He had moved away shortly after, unable to bear the weight of his loss in the same town without his wife and daughter. Maisie was inconsolable, her small body racked with sobs. The dream she had clung to for so long, the fragile hope of reunion, shattered into a million irreparable pieces. Chloe held her close, tears streaming down her own face, feeling the weight of Maisie's grief as if it were her own. Noah and Lily stood by, their faces etched with sorrow, offering silent support. As the sun began to set, casting long, melancholic shadows across the room, Mrs. Peterson offered them a place to stay for the night. They accepted, their hearts heavy with grief, the silence punctuated only by Maisie's muffled sobs. Later, as Maisie lay sleeping, exhausted and heartbroken, Chloe sat with Noah on the porch, the cool night air offering a small measure of solace. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely audible, laced with exhaustion and uncertainty. Noah looked at her, his eyes filled with a newfound understanding, a recognition of the burden she carried. "We keep going. We stick together." The next morning, they prepared to leave Willow Creek, the weight of their disappointment heavy on their shoulders. Mrs. Peterson, after learning the full extent of their situation, pressed a wad of crumpled cash into Chloe's hand. "Take care of each other," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Family isn't always about blood. It's about who stands by you, who loves you, who picks you up when you fall." Her words resonated deep within Chloe's heart, a profound truth settling within her soul. As they walked away from Willow Creek, hand in hand, Chloe realized that Mrs. Peterson was right. They had found something more important than their biological families, something more precious than a blood connection. They had found each other. Their journey continued, taking them to Noah's dream, the chaotic, vibrant streets of New York City, a stark contrast to their quiet, desperate existence, and then to Lily's, a quiet beach town where she imagined her artist mother had painted, a place of peace and tranquility. They faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of despair, but they always had each other. They learned to rely on each other, to support each other, to love each other unconditionally. By the time their journey ended, they were no longer just a group of runaway orphans. They were a family. A family forged in hardship, bound by love, and strengthened by the shared understanding that family wasn't about whose blood you had, but the people who were there for you, who cared for you, and who would always be there, no matter what. They had found their home, not in a place, but in each other. Their hero's journey hadn't led them back to their biological families, but to a family of choice, a family that was stronger, more resilient, and more loving than any they could have ever imagined. And that, they realized, was the greatest treasure of all, a testament to the power of human connection in a world that often felt cold and indifferent.